Welcome back to Texas Platinum, the last of the real water cooler talk shows on YouTube. The Texas Longhorns are 9-1, and a lot of the fans are freaking out. So we're going to talk about it. Texas beat TCU last week, big game against Iowa State this week. Trevor was actually on hand last week, so we're going to give it to him in a second. But first, please subscribe, like, comment. Let's try to keep growing this channel as much as we can. And for all the people that watch all the time, thank you all so much. We appreciate it. But yeah, Trevor, the Horns are 9-1, barely survived last week in Fort Worth. But what was your experience being there at Amon G. Carter Stadium for the last time, pretty much ever?
First time and the last time. This was my first true road game to go to as a Texas fan. Obviously been to Red River game, Big 12 championship, other neutral site games, but never a true road game. And I'm now up in Dallas, so TCU is the perfect road game to go to. First off, if you ever go to a TCU game for whatever reason, or you have the opportunity, do go. There's a lot of good-looking women out there. I gotta say, I was very impressed, and I'll leave it at that. But then, of course, good stadium, and people there were really friendly. That's what really shocked me most about just going is last time that they're going to play Texas, I really anticipated a lot of hate and resentment. I don't even think anyone flashed a horns down once to my face or said anything. It just seemed super chill and friendly, and I think part of it is kind of where TCU is right now in their season. They're not really competing for anything at this point. They're kind of a 500 team, and not what they were last year. So I think they kind of went in with just the idea of let's have a good time, see a big game against Texas, but I don't think anyone anticipated that it'd even be a close game on the TCU. At least from the TCU fan base. I think Texas fans were more nervous than TCU fans were confident, in this being a game. But the game itself, high energy, but not. Honestly, the loudest point in the game was at the end when it got close and down to one score. And by that point, the stadium was half empty. So to start the game when it was a full house, it was not loud at all. I was shocked because I always, understood that, TCU is kind of a tough place to play. And maybe it is on some years, but at least on this year, it was not loud. I was this is not an intimidating environment, full stadium, but just not. I really kind of was surprised in so many different ways by this game. Or by the atmosphere, rather. The game itself, that did have some surprises too that we'll get into it, but overall came out with a win. Didn't feel good coming out of it, so many of these other games where we're just kind of skidding by and, barely making do. But for the most part, overall positive experience, end on a win, and that's really ultimately what matters most. So, yeah, good weekend, good Saturday night in Fort Worth. Do go if you have the opportunity. It's a good time. Good time. And you can kind of see, this was another last thing, is you can kind of see where Del Conte got his inspiration for Bevo Boulevard. Frog Alley is nowhere near what Bevo Boulevard is, but I think that's kind of where he got that inspiration from, as well as other, college venues. But it's got a similar vibe, kind of. A lot more tame, but nonetheless, check it out.
Nice, man. Yeah, I've been there one time back in I think 2017, and I vowed to never go again because we got killed and I didn't like it.
Yeah, that was a rough game.
I'm glad we're done with playing TCU. And let's talk about the game now. It seemed like, yes, the monkey in the room. We keep blowing leads, keep living life on the edge, but I mean, you got to also be appreciative of the fact that we just won at TCU, which is a place that we haven't won at very much recently in the Big 12. I know we won 2021 too, so Sark's 2-0 in Fort Worth, which is impressive. But yeah, there's lots to unpack. I mean, Texas starts off slow, then we, do our typical moment of supernova where we just rattle off three straight touchdowns, three possession lead, like always. And then I'm not even celebrating. All my friends are like, "It's over." I'm like, "You've not watched this team. I know what's coming," and it's so frustrating
Right.
to know what's coming. We basically poop our pants out there and let them back into the game. Secondary and defense just kind of. I don't know if it's like the second, like them being tired and just kind of not playing complimentary football, and they just get gashed in the second half, or what it is. But they were pretty locked up on the back end, at least in the first half, I thought, for the most part. And you're playing a veer and shoot quarterback. That offense, they're going to have moments where they make big plays. Like that's just the nature of modern college football. But it's just compounded so quickly in the second half, and it just kind of seems like we were just giving up easy touchdown drives like we did back with Todd Orlando and the first year of PK, which has not been like us. I mean, we do that now occasionally, pretty much every game for like short stretches, which is a problem. But we really didn't at all in the first half of the season. But anyways, Texas found a way to win. We showed up when it mattered. I mean, I'm glad that we've dialed up that bomb to AD Mitchell to ice the game, because if they get that stop right there, I didn't have any faith in our defense to get that last stop on with 2 minutes left. So Texas wins, but we need to talk about just we need to diagnose what's going on in these games, why we collapse, how we can fix it, and I have some ideas, but I'll pass it back to you, Trevor, in a second. But I forgot to mention Quinn was back. Quinn played pretty well for the most part. Clearly rusty. He missed some intermediate throws that he never misses. It's usually his bread and butter, and he kind of missed a few of those. And, of course, the underthrown ball to Worthy for the interception. Shout out Worthy and Whittington for saving that. So Quinn looked good. Good to see him back out there. He made the plays when it counts, and we need him to improve, have a better week next week if we want to win at Iowa State. But, yeah, Trevor, just give it to me. What do you think about these collapses, and do you have any ideas on how to fix, so we can play a 4-quarter game? Because I feel like Sark really doesn't even know at this point.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? Yeah, I had same thing going through my mind at the stadium. First half didn't. I really wanted to score one more touchdown, one more something before the end of the first half. It just felt like we left a point or two on the board, and but I went away from the first half being like, you know what, they didn't even score a touchdown. Like, that's fantastic. We got a sizable lead, like, let's, exercise some demons and come out and, score and put this game away rather than letting them hang around. And instead it was more the same, like you said, of us just getting 3 outs, not being able to get the ball really past the 50, getting in any type of scoring position. And of course, our defense started buckling at that point. I mean, it's what Sark was, seasons ago, his first season and kind of his second too. The only difference is we're starting to being able to hold off and finish games. And my hope is that that's because we have a better team. My fear is that Big 12, I don't really know how good these teams are. And I just hope and pray that this is worst case scenario, but that maybe just we're not playing good teams and that's why we're winning. I can't say with confidence that that's the case, and I hope that that's not the case, but something to think about. Yeah, I really don't have an answer. I mean, if Sark doesn't have an answer, then no one really does. But if I had to give you an answer, I would say that, I don't know, not being, again, that, not being able to play complementary football is probably the biggest thing here. And just our run game is not consistent enough. which is a big problem, especially now with Brooks gone. With Brooks, our run game. Sorry, let me take that back. With Brooks, our run game is, and I guess was, fantastic. Every time that we gave the ball to Brooks, we were able to get a good amount of yardage. It was like clockwork, and it's been that way for most of the season. However, whenever they start handing the ball off to Baxter or some of our other running backs, we can't get in a rhythm whatsoever. That totally disrupts the flow of the game. And then passing, Quinn was rusty this game, and he's been good but not great the past few games. Houston, and then since coming back against TCU, he's had kind of back-to-back below average games, in my opinion, at least from what I know he's capable of. So I think those two play a big part of it. And then also just second half adjustments. Other team is able to adjust to us, our play style, our defense. And a lot of teams realize that, hey, if we just pass the ball, our secondary is not that great. We should be able to gain some yards and score some points. And that's what TCU did. They kind of changed their game plan and were able to, pass the ball pretty well, as long as they were getting it out quick enough for our defensive line to not collapse on top of them. They were able to get the ball down the field. And who is the TCU receiver that just torched us?
Savion Williams. We tried to get him.
Yeah, I kept looking for his name. For whatever reason, I didn't remember it. I should have, because he, again, murdered us, and would love to have him next year if he decides to transfer. But yeah, that guy was just on fire against us, and big reason as to why we, started giving up some big yardage and ultimately points.
Yeah, I think that the reason we keep having these collapses, and it's kind of flipped from earlier in the year when they were always like we'd start slow against Wyoming, then explode in the fourth quarter. I think recently, there's multiple reasons, but once we get off of Sark's script, the play calling gets worse. Secondly, we try to have this identity of being balanced, and Sark doubled down on it again Monday press conference. We like to pride ourselves on running the ball when they know we're going to run the ball. And I think there's some stubbornness to Sark there. He really wants to have that identity, which we don't have yet. We don't have the offensive run blocking interiorly to do that consistently. I know we did against Alabama at the last drive, but they were gassed. We weren't running on them at all in the first half. And that was just a couple drives that we had of success to close that game out, where all of a sudden Sark thinks we can just do that to everybody in the Big 12. And we have these leads, and then we just start. I feel like we run the ball too much in the second half. I feel like we need to. Sark's always talking about we get to third and short and then don't convert. I think we need to have more downfield vertical plays to get first downs on first and second down, more chunk plays. Because if you go back and watch, I mean, the chunk plays are what all our touchdown drives were started by chunk plays, not us, nickel and diming them, running the ball, not the majority of the plays. And it just feels like the offense flows so much better. We have the best weapons that you could ask for. We have a great pass blocking O-line. No sacks the last 2 weeks. Quinn was untouched. Malik was untouched. I think we really need to just, now that Brooks is out, we know Baxter's not Jonathan Brooks. I think hopefully now Sark just kind of has the fortitude to just create an identity of being like an air raid predominantly team, at least the next couple of weeks, out of necessity. But I think he'll also come to realize that we're better when we just open it up and just throw the ball 40 plus, 50 plus times a game. Just every team is different. I mean, and this team, especially without Brooks, is catered to just throw bombs to Worthy, Mitchell, get Jonte involved, Whittington underneath, Jatavion. Like, there's so many weapons. We can, I think Nash Talks Texas put the video out. We could probably be better without Jonathan Brooks offensively if Sark makes the proper adjustments and, switches our offense to be more pass first. I think that would really just I feel like our drives stall out so easily because the run is just stuffed every time, and in the second half it just compounds. And yeah, so that's something to watch. Hopefully this week we throw on Iowa State a lot. In second half, if we have a lead, I hope we keep throwing on them and just see what it looks like. Like I just want to see what it looks like when you throw the ball 50 times a game. And if it doesn't work, if it's a disaster, then back to the drawing board. But I really think that could change a lot of the dynamics of our offense and our ability just to stack points, because we just feel like we trip on our feet all the time, like over ourselves offensively. And a lot of it has to do with Quinn. Quinn is not – he's also a part of the problem. He's not consistent enough. There's a lot of games. I mean, the Bama game, he played great. OU, aside from the first quarter, played great. But there's a lot of times where drives stall out because Quinn just makes a bad play. Like there's someone open and he throws the ball in the dirt, or he takes a sack way too early. Like he starts staring at the pass rush 2 seconds into the play and just falls down. Those things kill drives, and then it just gives the other team momentum, and our defense gets gas, and it just feels like so many quick drives, and that's where they get us. So hopefully this week we'll see a change in the energy. And I think Sark did make a mention, like if we need to pass the ball a lot to win, we can do that, because he always talks about how versatile we are. So hopefully we see that this week. AD Mitchell is like the greatest receiver I've ever seen at Texas, and I feel like he needs to be utilized a lot more than he is. He gets utilized a lot, but I think he needs to get at least 10 targets a game, along with Worthy getting 10, and then Jatavion at least 5, and then Whittington maybe 3 or 4 as well. So basically we need to pass the ball. That's my thought, and I could be wrong, but I feel like what do you have to lose? Let's use these receivers and these weapons that we have and this amazing pass blocking line. But that's my diagnosis. Could be wrong. I'm not a head coach, but that's what I would do if I was calling the shots.
Yeah, I do like that. I don't know why my brain's going here, but OU game last season, how we were able to pass the ball and kind of drive down the field, and it wasn't the big home run passes, but it was, kind of those intermediate passes that Quinn is generally pretty good at, utilizing Jordan Whittington and stuff. I think that could be a really good way to just move the chains and get in a rhythm, because the rhythm right now for Quinn is not good, at least past 2 games, like I said, haven't been great against TCU. He had a few good throws, but then his timing was way off on some of them, where he was throwing before, like it would go out of his hand, and I'd literally be like, we're not ready for that. like you're going way too early, or, you're going way too late, or, there's been a few balls that he's thrown where it's like he's putting a ton of air under him for no reason. Like, I'm like, just throw it regular. Like, you're going to get this ball intercepted because you're adding all this time for the secondary to come up on the receiver. If you just throw it like a normal throw, you're great. You're golden. It's just those little things that, if he just does it more naturally, I don't even know how to say it, but it's I think it's, he needs to get back into reestablish that rhythm, and I'm assuming and hoping that doing like some intermediate passes and just getting that going would help him a lot. Deep balls have gotten better this season. Still not great. That one deep ball to Worthy, I feel like Worthy could have very easily gotten a touchdown if he didn't overextend him just a little bit. And then you mentioned Mitchell. Mitchell is a great receiver, but he still gives up on routes. There were like 2 in this past game where one of them, I think, was nearly intercepted, or very easily could have been if the DB was trying a little bit harder. But I don't know why, but he sometimes just stops running his route, and I'm like, why? Like, that's a touchdown if you don't. So I don't know. They need more reps, more practice, all that. But, it's also like we're almost done with the season. So the fact that we're saying that is just a little bit bizarre. But
yeah, and that's the frustration with Quinn Ewers. I mean, it's just he's so nails in certain games, like Alabama, just perfect, so poised. He's just playing. And then other games he looks scared, like slow. He's too much in his head. And yeah, like he had 80 missile wide open on a beautiful like touchdown out route. And of course Quinn rushes it and throws it over his head when he didn't need to rush that ball. Just he he had time, and things like that are very frustrating. And they just, there's, you can look at every game and just usually besides like Bama and maybe OU and a couple others, there's just so many moments where it's like, dang, Quinn, like this, our drive was stalled here. Points were lost here because Quinn misses those. And that's football. Like not every quarterback's perfect. That's going to happen. But I just kind of wish like Quinn could be like that 5-star consistent star that we've seen. Like we've seen it in him. He plays like it sometimes. It's just not nearly often enough for us to be a dominant team. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Anything else? We got Iowa State this week. Anything else? Big picture. Oh, let's talk about this. So Texas and the playoffs and the Big 12 title, it's all coming down to these last couple of weeks. And frankly, I mean, we're 9-1. I mean, November's almost over, mid-November. We're first in the Big 12. Like, this is great. I mean, you got to give Sark a lot of credit. And but the Big 12 title is not a lock for us. I feel like we really have to win out based on my understandings of these tiebreaker rules, which make no sense. Apparently, the Big 12 just changed the rules to screw Kansas State or something like that. I don't know. Very Bush League from a G5 conference. Not surprised. Basically, but Texas controls their own destiny in the Big 12, so please just win these last two games. I know they're very tricky at Iowa State, Texas Tech at home. That's going to be a very emotional game for Texas Tech. Let's just please take care of business and get to Arlington. And then we get to Arlington, and let's win the Big 12 title. And then from there, if you're lucky, the playoffs are possibly on the horizon. But seems kind of
we're out.
Yeah, and Trevor wanted to talk about us like as a potential playoff team, so I'll hand it to Trevor. What are your thoughts on Texas maybe backing into the playoffs if we're lucky?
I mean, it'll have to take a handful of teams losing, I think, for us to get in. I think Florida State's going to have to lose. Oregon and Utah is an interesting, if Oregon beats Utah, then I think Oregon makes it in as a one loss. Well, I know that they do. I'm very confident that they do. Sorry, not Utah. My God. If Oregon beats Washington, there we go. Yeah. But then, Alabama is an interesting, they might walk their way into if they're able to beat Georgia in their conference title. So, and then of course, either Michigan or Ohio State are probably a lock to go in, one of the two, depending who wins that game. So there's just a lot of good teams this year. I mean, there's still the chance that it's an all undefeated, slate of teams that make it to the title, to the playoff. So I don't know. I'm not liking our odds too much right now. I think that we'll have to get pretty lucky, and it's out of our control. I mean, obviously we got to win out, but outside of that, it's kind of out of our control, and I'm not sure if the cards are going to fall in the way in order for that to happen. But again, that's out of your control, so don't worry about that and instead focus on winning out and winning the title, Big 12 title, like you said. So it's unfortunate that Texas fans are kind of having to reset our expectations. I hate doing that personally, because to me that's like you're giving in, but that loss to Oklahoma was huge. Every game, every loss is, a problem if you're trying to get to, a title game like that, or the playoff rather. And then also just we haven't played good enough down the stretch. And really in most of our games this year, we haven't put teams away. And that does matter for the playoff committee. They're looking for teams with flash and dominance, and we just really haven't played, pretty much many games, this season with that dominance being showcased. So a little unfortunate, but I think we're all in agreement. Just try to win the conference championship one step at a time, get to a big bowl game, and see where it goes from there.
Trevor, you got me all depressed right now. I think the runway is there. I think the path is there for Texas. We need like a Florida State loss, which is possible. They play at the Swamp next weekend and at a night, which is scary rivalry, and then Louisville in the ACC title, and then maybe a Pac-12. Like we could potentially jump one loss Oregon if Bama wins the SEC, in my opinion, because then they're going to want to send Bama, and sending Bama over 12-1 Texas would be problematic, very problematic.
I
A
think they
lot of
do it anyway.
I don't.
They've looked better. I agree that it should be us. I mean, but
I
we've seen this before.
I truly don't think like that they would send Bama over Texas for both 12-1 if it came down to one spot. I don't think they would do that. But yeah, the fact that it's a conversation is a reason why it's so frustrating to watch us just blow these leads every week. Because if we were just holding on to these leads, Texas would be no doubt like, yeah, Texas is the fourth seed in that
Yeah.
scenario. But I think the path is there. But like you said, Trevor, we don't seem deserving of it. We seem so content with just winning by 3 against mediocre Big 12 teams, and Sark getting on the presser. It feels great to be 9-1, and it's just like it doesn't feel like we're improving much. And I have no doubt if we were to go to the playoff that we'd play Michigan or Georgia unbelievably well and possibly win that game, because that's what we do. Like we win games like that. We show up for those games, but we still play down to our competition. But luckily, Sark has built like a beautiful roster that's veteran, where even playing down to our competition, we still find ways to win, which is good. But yeah, it's just so frustrating because you see the team, you see the window. Like this it could so easily be a playoff team if they were just a little bit better, just a little bit more consistent, they're so close. And it's still there. So I don't want to sound like I'm writing them off yet, because they're still, Washington could very well lose this week at Oregon State. And it can all change. Like Championship Saturday, USC was a lock last year to go in. They lost to Utah, and then they fell out. Then, so it's a lot of shuffling is going to happen. I feel like the chances of them ever going undefeated is unlikely. But on Texas's end, it's just sad. I don't even have confidence in us winning these last 2 games, just because we
Right.
flirt so much with upsets every week against bad teams, and the next one of the next 2, if not both, are going to be very, very dicey.
Yeah.
And could potentially be a loss. Then it's the Big 12 title and against Mike Gundy or something like that, or Kansas State in a revenge game. Like that's not a given either with the way that we just play down to these teams. And so it's just frustrating, but also, I mean, 9-1, first world problems, I guess. And Stark's building a program. He's doing it right, learning how to win. He's learning how to coach. I mean, he's still not veteran coach, but it's just frustrating because it's right there for you to take. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how the cards how they fall, but we just need to win Saturday.
Yeah. And I mean, life without Jonathan Brooks will be interesting, especially down the stretch here. And if we do get to the Big 12 game, if you can't run the ball whenever you need to run the ball, then that's going to be a problem. Because that was such a big part of our offensive identity. I mean, you think back to Alabama, in that closing drive, or, really once we had a sizable lead, run game was massive. And I don't know, a lot of people have confidence in Baxter. I'm not willing to hop on that train just yet. Still needs to prove a lot to me personally. And I'm sure other Texas fans feel the same. And then Blue looks good in his limited touches, but it's been super limited. I don't know how he's going to look, going out there in really meaningful game reps. Hope that it's good, but don't really know. So it's kind of hard to tell with the running game so affected now, what we're going to look like. And if Sark adjusts his play calling and the identity of the team as a result, or we just plug and play. So this Iowa State game, I think, will be a good look into what to expect for the next couple games as the season closes out.
Yeah, and Sark's not a very stubborn, egotistical guy. At least from my perspective, he's never been that guy. He's always been genuine, a reflection, a refreshment, like refresher from Tom Herman, because Tom Herman was the opposite. So I think Sark is not too prideful to change the way he has to be. But then again, we're late in the season, probably won't So I don't know, but I'm so curious how we approach life without Jonathan Brooks, and
Yeah.
I think I hope he just goes full air raid. So yeah, I agree.
So now we will transition over to Iowa State. Texas heads into Ames as a 9-point favorite against Cyclones. Cyclones having an interesting year. Myers, let's go into that more, because going into the season with all the gambling and other controversies hanging around the team, myself and I think a lot of college football fans anticipated that they'd be kind of a shit show and would be awful, and they haven't been awful. I mean, they've been bad in a few games, but overall, they've actually been a pretty decent team.
Yeah, they're coming in at 6-4, and early in the year it looked like, man, this is a really bad Iowa State team. Lost at Ohio, which is a MAC team, 10-7, and then Matt Campbell got in a fight with that fan who was talking trash to him. He thought like, man, Campbell went from like the hottest name in the country to
Right.
potentially fired just like that. But of course, in Iowa State fashion, they've kind of got some momentum going down the stretch, and of course, coming off a big win against BYU last week, so they're peaking right when we play them at night in Ames on Fox, blackout. But we're favored by 9, and Iowa State in general is kind of the reason I'm terrified. First of all, I'm terrified. The reason I'm not like extra terrified is because their offense really isn't that good. I know they put up 45 last week at BYU, but aside from that, they really just like they're 80th in the nation in passing and barely crack 100 in rushing. They don't put up that much points per game. Their offense, and they never really will with Matt Campbell. I mean, when they had Brees Hall and Xavier Hutchinson, yeah, they had some dudes, but I mean, they have some good players now like Jalen Noel and other guys, I guess, but nothing quite like that. So I think Texas, stylistically, at least, we don't want to play a team that can pass the ball to a bunch of athletes downfield over and over again. And that's not Iowa State, but I'm sure they'll do it this week. I'm sure they will, and I'm sure they'll have success with it because we make everybody look great again at quarterback. That's what we do again all of a sudden. So they got Rocco Becht at quarterback. He's a freshman, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So I don't know. I've watched him a little bit. Haven't been that impressed, but also haven't been like, oh man, this guy sucks either. So he's the proper Texas candidate to make him like a Heisman quarterback against us randomly. So expect that Saturday. But yeah, I mean, as you can tell by the way I'm talking, I was not very confident about this game. And I just feel like, we've been living too dangerously on the edge and we're going to get got here soon. But luckily, an angel from heaven was sent in the name of Gerard Huford, this Iowa State offensive guard, I want to say.
Yeah.
And he had some words to talk about Texas. And here, let me read it to you. Let me just read you the quote, okay? He said, it's definitely going to be one heck of a farewell present. They're going to come in here on senior night in the dark. I don't think they really know. I don't think they really know what's coming for them. I think they're going to have to come out and figure it out. I just think the Cyclone community in Ames, when it comes to night games, especially against Texas, we beat them 4 of the last 5 times they've been here, so they don't have a good chance. We have that distaste in our mouth for them. We definitely want to send them off in the SEC with a loss on our end, which makes no sense. Ever since I got here, it was Iowa and Texas. I guess we're their rival. That was kind of the thing. Hold down all the time and whatnot. But it's just that program. Much like Oklahoma, they get all the big 5-star recruits, 5-star culture. They have all the nicest stuff in the world, and they just think they're blank, don't stink, to put it in layman's terms. They're just humans, and that's how I see them. They're just people that have a high ego that needs to be checked. Okay, this guy is going to be lining up directly.
Gotta have your ego checked, dude. Damn.
This guy is going to be lined up directly across from Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy Saturday night. Yeah. And Byron Murphy quoted that quote with with just saying 7 p.m. So I think Byron Murphy, Jatavion, they're all reposting it. And I think Texas probably forgot we were playing a game Saturday, truly, because it's Iowa State. It's the Big 12.
Right.
We don't really care about games like this. And I think that, thank God this guy reminded us that we have a game Saturday in Ames, Iowa against Iowa State. So hopefully we'll actually show up and play a 4-quarter game like we did at Bama. And Quinn Ewers, as much as I was hitting on him earlier in this video, he's built for games like these, really hostile environments, because Ames is, it's probably the toughest, not toughest, but most hostile, imposing environment in the Big 12 at night, besides like OU and Texas. And it's not easy to win there, but I think Quinn Ewers is, he loves games like that. In Bama, he was just money. And I feel like he'll have that big game feel in some sense to him because just the atmosphere. So because of all that, I'm feeling better about it. But still, I mean, it's just we've had too many bad memories in this Ames, Iowa over the last decade. And like you have here, Trevor, it's the anniversary of the Bo Davis ran on that bus last year, and or 2 years ago, and he got run off the field at Iowa State. So it's just a very scary place to play. And but Texas matches up well. Let's see if we can play a four-quarter complete game. Get some style points maybe, or just lose. We'll see.
Yeah, on paper, it really shouldn't be a game. Coming into the season, when we were doing like season predictions and everything like that, I was very confident about this game. I said I know it's Iowa State. I don't think they're going to be very good. I think Texas is going to be to a point where, these smaller teams aren't going to be able to really compete. And then a lot has changed since then. And you're right. I mean, this team just continues to fly too close to the sun, it seems like. And at some point, we're going to run into a loss. It just seems like a matter of time. But like you eloquently said, Hufford saying that quote is just the best thing anyone could have said to awaken our team. Because I think you're right. And I've talked to multiple people, obviously us at Texas Platinum, but other fans that all were just like, yeah, we're losing Iowa State. Like, I don't think I talked to a single Texas fan that was confident going into this game. And then as soon as Hufford said that, it's like, okay, team's on alert now. They're all tweeting pictures. They're taking pictures of it, bulletin board material, all that good stuff. I do kind of think that bulletin board material is a little overrated, because once the game gets going, you forget about that stuff. And, it's good for like prep, which I guess is good. You got to be in the right mindset before you go into a game. But once once the game starts going, that kind of, it's not like after the game, you're still like, yeah, you said that too. I mean, some players could be like that, but not the majority, I would say. But nonetheless, good to get our attention, and we're not sleepwalking into this game. Otherwise, I think we had a very good shot at losing, and still kind of do. I mean, we still might, but it helps us out a tremendous amount. And that's been Texas's problem historically, is we don't get up for these teams, and quote like that helps us get up for our team. So feeling better about things. This is another mountain that we need to climb in terms of beating a Big 12 team. Again, it'd be fantastic if we can go out of this season having beaten every Big 12 team except Oklahoma, which again we'll continue to keep playing them for years to come. But to be able to finish perfect on all the other teams would be a dream come true, really, for Texas fans. So really need to win this game for the sake of so many reasons, but mostly to get to the title game. So that's got to happen. Let's talk keys to the game, I guess, before we go into predictions, unless we have any other thoughts. But what would you say, Myers, are the biggest keys?
Well, it kind of blends into what I was saying earlier. We need to pass the ball a lot. I know it's a 3-3-5. I know it's John Heacock, and kind of been the kryptonite to our Sark offense over the years. But recently, we've really had some success with the 3-3-5, passing on it downfield vertically, especially against Kansas State. We saw that. So I think throwing the ball a lot is important, throwing it downfield and testing them deep in their speed. Secondly, I think holding this team to field goals is how I see this game um, playing out. And I think that's very important for us because I just know how we are. We're going to give up long drives, but they don't have. I don't think. I mean, Jalen Noel's good, but I think that they're bad enough where we can give up long drives and um, stiffen up in the red zone and hold them to field goals, which is all we need to do. Really, that's all we need to do. We'll score enough if we do that to beat them. So I think that's a huge key to the game. I'm not ultra terrified of them just scoring in 30 seconds like TCU and K-State were doing, but I mean, you never know. I mean, we kind of just it's kind of incredible how we make some of these mid quarterbacks look so good still, and even when we're good now. So I just think hold them to field goals and pass the ball out downfield are kind of the things I really want to see, and I feel like that is a recipe to win. And I want to say this is a game where I'll take a win of any sort. Winning in Ames, this is a horrible spot to be in. This is a spot where we lose every time in the last 12 years. So if we just win the game, even if it's ugly, I'll take it, and then try to get some style points against Tech possibly. But just get the win here. It's not going to be like TCU where if we win by 3, I'll be upset. This one, I just want to get the win and just never play Iowa State again.
Yeah. I think ultimately this game comes down to the two quarterbacks. Whoever has the better game, whether it's Quinn or Beck. I think that's really where the game lies because Iowa State, I think is really going to struggle running the ball against us, being that our run defense is so good and their offensive line is average and is going to get probably targeted after that quote, at least for the beginning part of the game, while those words are still fresh in our minds. But that coupled with, I don't know if their running game in general is all that good. And then for Texas, not having Brooks there, I feel like Quinn is going to need to be an even better quarterback and be able to drive the ball downfield and make plays and be smart. Because I from my little understanding of Iowa State, their secondary actually isn't all that bad, especially with the 3-3-5 coupled with it. That makes it a little bit more challenging for Quinn. The good thing is I do feel very confident in our offensive line against their defensive line. I think that this will be another potential game where Quinn is able to get by unscathed, without needing to really run for his life or worry about being touched. Their pass rush isn't really, at least thus far into the season, hasn't really been all that good. So I'm feeling good about that. It's just, can Quinn make the right decisions? Can he make the right throws? Can he clean up those mistakes that he's been making past couple games and just play sharp? And if he does that, I think that the game's in the bag. But if he's sloppy again and, we're not able to really get in a rhythm and get the ball going and keep Iowa State in the game, road game, night game, could be just like TCU of last week where we let them back in. And again, you keep flying too close to the sun. Eventually you're going to get burned. So it's real important that his team stays buttoned up and takes care of business in that regard.
Yeah. So I guess we go to predictions now, but before we do that, any final thoughts on Iowa State is just like this matchup, not rivalry, this matchup's ending forever.
Rivalry. It is a rivalry.
It's kind of weird how Texas plays Iowa State every year and like some of these Big 12 schools, West Virginia. Yeah, they're a team that I really won't miss much.
No, before Matt Campbell got there, they were actually kind of a nice team to play because even in our down years early on, it was like, okay, like this is a win, so it was like patting the stats a little bit. It's like, okay, finally a Big 12 team that we can beat. But once Campbell got there, and especially once Purdy got there, it actually became kind of competitive, which was kind of fun. My thoughts on Iowa State is, I don't like them. Obviously, none of us do, but I kind of would have liked to have seen them win a conference title or at least, get to that point where they were really close. I mean, I guess they were that one year, but, that senior year of Purdy and the rest of that squad, and the fact that they just had a mediocre season was kind of laughable and a little disappointing. Honestly, I thought that they'd have a chance to actually do something, and they weren't. So it's been a bit of a fall from grace for Campbell and for the Cyclones in general, but they've still played competitive in the meaningful games against Texas and Oklahoma. So I don't know. They seem a bit like us in a way, ironically, where they get up for the games that they care about, but then lose to Ohio and other bad teams. Their non-conference games in general have just been hilarious over the past few seasons, where they've lost some real head scratchers against bad teams. So no, I won't miss them for sure. It's just not I don't like riffing on schools, but it's just not a sexy brand, you know. It's just not. And yeah, I think it'll be kind of forgettable. But
Yeah.
I respect their stadium though, and their night games. They do show out, so it at least makes it look interesting. At least it's not like a half empty stadium and it's boring and pathetic, and they just have a good team. Like their fans show out, so props to their fans. But outside of that, yeah, I'm good.
All right. So predictions, we have Madrid's not here tonight, of course, but he texted it to us. He's got the Horns winning 28-21. So he picked us to lose against Kansas State. Now he's picking the Horns to win in this weird spot. I'll go to myself next. So I thought for sure this was a loss going into the week. Right after that TCU game, I was like, we are losing next week, especially with that Jonathan Brooks. But the more I've thought about it, I do really like the idea of us opening it up now without Jonathan Brooks. We're changing our identity now. We're going to be less balanced, more pass heavy, I think, out of necessity. So I think that's going to be beneficial for us. And also the bulletin board material kind of saved our season. So for that, I got Texas winning 31-20. And I'd be happy with a 10-point win, but I'll take a 1-point win in this spot. So I'm not confident, but I'm rolling with the Horns here.
You mean 11-point win?
Yeah, 11.
Yeah. I also have us winning. And also, like you guys, really was very confident that we were going to lose this game after Brooks got hurt. But I think that we're still going to be able to squeak by, large part given the comments by Iowa State. But I do think that we're gonna be ready and willing to win. Like we said earlier, Bo Davis anniversary. TCU was a game that had a big culture play in it, where Quinn throws the ball way short, Worthy gets intercepted, Whittington misses a tackle on the defender, but then makes it up, causes a fumble, Worthy recovers the fumble. Really an incredible culture play for us, and that would have never gone down 2 seasons ago, where this team was giving up and had a come to Jesus moment on a dark bus with Bo Davis yelling. So it's nice to see that evolution from our team, and it'd be great to have that paid off in the form of a win against Iowa State on the road. So anyway, I got us winning 34-27, not covering, because Iowa State is still going to play their ass off, I think, and keep it close. Another down to the wire type game, unfortunately. So just kind of following the trends here, in my opinion. But it'd be great to see us just pull away and make it easy and get us back on track. But until I see it, I gotta have us playing it close, even when we have no reason to do so. It just seems to be the identity of the team at the moment. So love to see that change, but not anticipating it.
Yeah, man. I just hope we win. It feels like we lose this game, we're out of the Big 12 title, and if we miss the Big 12 title,
Season's over.
Is it a success? Like we're better this year, but it was always Big 12 title or bust. So we need to win this, and I think we will. I'm gaining confidence as the days go by. But at kickoff, I'll be a wreck. Uh, yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up, right, Trevor?
Yeah, I don't believe anything else now.
All right. Well, thank y'all for watching. I know this was kind of a long one, so if y'all actually stuck it out, we appreciate it. Comment if you did, and we'll shout you out, of course. And but yeah, thank y'all for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Probably won't have one of these till after Thanksgiving, so hopefully the Horns get the win Saturday and keep chugging along to the Big 12 championship and the college football playoff and the national championship.
Aim high. We'll see.
All right. See y'all. Hook 'em.
Okay.